Let's head to the headlines now and see what are the stories on the front pages of newspapers. I have with me journalist Janet Mba Afolabi in the studio, as well as social commentator Shujibumi Adebi Bennett. Good morning. Nice to see you all.
Good morning. Nice to see you
Very
again.
good. Okay, let's begin right away from the Daily Sun. That's where we start from this morning. 649 billion naira windfall for 36 states and the FCT. Federal government to disburse another Paris Club refund, recover 605 billion naira through whistleblower policy. Okay, that's what is on the Daily Sun this morning. Let's move now to The Nation. The Nation newspaper is the next one now, and it says 649 billion naira Paris Club refund ready for states to share. The concept of sharing. Okay, from The Nation, let's go to the Blueprint. The Blueprint is saying that the Puff Adder hits Kaduna, Katsina, Niger, bursts kidnappers' den, arrests 93. All right. Rocket launchers, 60,000 fake dollars, others recovered. In manpower, funding too low to fight insurgency. The House of Reps is saying that. And insecurity, making investment in the north difficult. Nasima is saying that. All right. From the Blueprint, let's go to the Nigerian Tribune. Federal government owes states 649.4 billion naira excess Paris Club refund. It recovers 605 billion naira from whistleblower policy, and core members to earn 30,000 naira monthly. Okay, the minimum wage is kicking in gradually. All right, let's get to the last one now that says at last National Assembly okays June 12 as Democracy Day. And that has really elicited a lot of commendations from across the country, and that's what we'll be talking about. We have other liners there that says, Okoromo, Afenifere scrap, doubts government sincerity. Senate approves second term for CBN governor, and Emefiele challenges suit against reappointment. Okay, gentlemen, let's talk about the Democracy Day. We have a new Democracy Day from this year. Last year, when the president came up with the announcement that there'll be a shift from the May 29 to June 12, a lot of people really were happy about it. A lot of Nigerians were happy about it because of the significance of it. And here the Senate has officially endorsed it. Janet, let me start with you on this.
Yes, I think it's a very cheering news that at last, I like that headline, at last, because there had been a lot of agitations, there had been a lot of pressure that June 12 should be the Democracy Day, not May 29, because June 12 marks a milestone in the history of Nigeria, the political history of Nigeria. It was a day that for the first time we had a peaceful election, a democratic process, which election should be, without bloodletting.
One of the freest and fairest elections.
Yes, I was going
to
come to that. Okay. The freest when ethnic and religion did not matter. Where Abiola was Muslim and his vice president was also a Muslim, King Gibe. So people did not bother about ethnic or religion. They were after, let us have this democracy. Because at that time, people were already tired. They were tired of the former head of state's endless transition to democracy. You know, each time there were elections, at the end of the elections, there'll be stalemate. And so people were already tired. So when this one came, Nigerians trooped out. I was in Sokoto. I was a reporter at that time, political reporter. Yes, I used to cover NRC and SDP. And Abiola was SDP. So I covered the elections in Sokoto, and everybody trooped out and voted. And he won. But at the point of announcement, it was
that was when hopes were dashed.
That was the hope night.
All right, Shujibumi, the point there is, how significant are these dates when it comes? Someone would say, is it not just the dates? What does it mean? How significant? Can you talk to us from that window?
Yes, and I thank God that I wasn't too young to experience it. I was a teenager, excuse me. I was a teenager at that time, and I think I was in my final year in the secondary school or SS2. So we were not eligible to vote, but we knew everything. We knew the songs on the march again, and all of that. So we enjoyed the transition, and we liked the fact that politics was not practiced then like now. Not so much of violence. I think the violence came about after the annulment of the election. But what is very succinct for me is the fact that for once we're getting back to revisiting and reenacting history. You know, we lost our basics, we lost our history by not, talking about these things, because when UNILAG was supposed to be Moshood Abiola University, the students revolted. They didn't have a sense of history. Nobody had visited that history. So there was no antecedent. But
it wasn't even, when it comes to the issue of UNILAG, it wasn't just even the students who said they didn't want it. There were people who were the professors who understood, who were there before 1993, who understood what all of these things mean.
Yes,
they still didn't
yes, there will always be different
opinions,
explanations and opinions and preferences for things like that. But I still think that because we left it for a long time, there was no emphasis on it, and this was a great sacrifice. All our leaders have their weaknesses, the past and present. Okay. But we should also, when they make those sacrifices, we should be able to acknowledge and appreciate it.
All right, Janet, I wonder, in your own opinion and what you have, assessed over why did it take this long, over close to 30 years of continuous reminding, continuous pressure on government? That's the word, pressure on government to make June 12 the Democracy Day, or commemorate that day somehow, and it's coming now, almost 30 years.
It took this long because the presidents who came after that time may not have believed in June 12, or may not have supported June 12 being named Democracy Day. We had presidents after that, Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, Jonathan, and they may not have been pro-June 12, in quotes, that believing in it in such a manner that they could change it. You remember that there were allegations that Obasanjo didn't even want to talk about it and to say that he wants to change it to June 12. He believed in that May 29 and insisted. So Buhari, the current president, President Buhari, it was one of the promises. He made a promise last year. He believes in the June 12 struggle, and perhaps that is why the pressure has been able to yield under his administration, more so that a lot of those progressives who fought for June 12 are in his government. And so he's able to have their ears. He's able to reason with them and see why June 12 should be made the Democracy Day. And he has made it. And he has been getting a lot of commendations, accolades, praises, and he will never be forgotten in the history of Nigeria as the president who declared June 12 Democracy Day. That will never be forgotten.
All right, Shiji Mummy, going forward, when it comes to the significance of politics and how this will rub off on the way we run politics, what are you seeing going forward as Nigerians now have what they want as Democracy Day?
Yes, I think the message of that day should be what we should emphasize on, not just a holiday and declaring it a public holiday. I mean, a message of hope. Our leaders have, over time, given us a bit of pessimism, and these things are pervasive. So it's very, very important that the present leadership, we know we're going through tough times, but when I see what I see in the paper sometimes, it gets to me, whereby tough times, the CBN governor just appointed, everybody's talking about tough times. Give us a ray of hope. Give us that, things were not easy in 92, 93, but Abiola came with a message of hope. We can get it right. Tell us about the solutions. Tell us our own responsibility, what the citizens need to do, and do your own part, and everything will be well.
All right. Now, a lot of Nigerians have said that this is not necessarily even about honoring MKO Abiola as a person only. It's about fixing Nigeria. Going forward when it comes to ideologies and what Nigerians believe in. But let's narrow it down to the personality of MKO Abiola. How much of an honor is this to him, Janet?
It's an honor that even in his grave, he'll be smiling. Yeah. I can imagine him smile and say, at last, what he didn't get alive, he got in the grave. And his name will remain forever in the history of Nigeria. And I think that it's both honor for MKO Abiola and the Nigerian people who voted, who trooped out, and today, because of the confirmation, the passing into bill by the Senate, those who voted, I didn't vote, I only covered the events. But at least...
But you contributed that time as a journalist.
Yes, as a journalist, I covered the voting. So I'm happy that my efforts on that day are not in vain. And all those who also voted for Abiola that day, that led to the victory, that their votes have counted.
Have counted, okay. Thank you very much, Janet Mba Falabi. Thank you for coming on the program. And Shijibumi Adebi Bennett, thank you so much.
It's time to look at the stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have joining me in the studio to do justice to that a journalist, Janet Mba Falabi, and a social commentator, Shijibumi Adebi Bennett. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you, Janet.
Good morning.
Good to see you, Mr. Adebi Bennett. Let's head straight to the papers now, and I start with the Daily Sun. On the front page here, we have 649 billion naira windfall for 36 states, federal capital territory. Federal government to disburse another Paris Club refund, recovers 605 billion naira through whistleblower policy. I'll move to the front page of the Nation newspaper. 649 billion naira Paris Club refund ready for states to share. Minimum wage finance in the works. To the front page of the Blueprint, Porf Ada hits Kaduna, Katsina, Niger, busts kidnappers, den arrests 93. Rocket launches 60,000 fake dollars, others recovered. Manpower funding too low to fight insurgency, reps. Insecurity making investment in North difficult, Nasima. And to the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, federal government owes states 649.4 billion naira excess Paris Club refund, recovers 605 billion naira from whistleblower policy, core members to earn 30,000 naira monthly. Interesting. And we move to the final paper this morning. That's on the front page of The Guardian. At last, the National Assembly okays June the 12th as Democracy Day. Okoromo Afenifere scribed out government sincerity. Senate approves second term for CBN Governor. Emefiele challenges the suit against reappointment. But I want us to look at the story that is on the front page of almost all the papers this morning. I will be picking it from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Federal government owes states 649.4 billion naira excess Paris Club refund. I'll start with you, Janet. This is the final tranche.
This is the final batch.
We need to emphasize the fact
yes,
that this is the final tranche.
And final indeed. My question is,
what next?
What have they done with the previous ones? This is time to demand accountability. A lot of people take things for granted, even in governance. We have this sharing mentality. That's why a young musician sang a song and said, share the money. We all want to share the money. Nobody wants to think of how to bring in money, generate money. How can you share money you did not generate? When you begin to share money you did not generate, then you take it for granted. That is when corruption comes in. That is when embezzlement comes in. That's when deceit and greed and deprivation. They begin to deprive the people of those things that they were supposed to use the money for. What projects have they done to justify the ones?
The people were supposed to hold the government to account.
To demand accountability.
Yes.
So they are keeping quiet. Why should they keep quiet? People should stand up and begin to demand accountability. Even the government should ask these governors, give us account of the ones. The Minister of Finance can do that. Before we release the money to you, send us, when people travel, even in a
that is what it was supposed to be. Monitoring what is done with all of this money, Shijibomi. But we did not get that, and here we are at the final tranche, because when you look at the level of unemployment, poverty, in most of the states, you begin to wonder, what have they been doing with these monies?
In as much as I don't want to be too pessimistic, but I think it will go the way other tranches have always gone. It's only the states that are very, very buoyant that will find something very viable to do with this. And we we can only shout.
What makes the other states buoyant and the others not to be buoyant?
It's still creativity.
Everyone, yeah.
It's still creativity, and it's still good thinking. But it's not the final tranche. And for me, my appeal is for states owing salaries, owing people pensions and gratuities, even if you can't think of something else to do with it, use that to settle, because no other tranche is coming. This is the money for the states. It's not that the government, the federal government is gifting them.
Yeah.
It was over bill of what they were not supposed to pay in previous years. And the people in government now are not the people that made those payments, but they are the beneficiaries of the refund. So what we're supposed to do now, because the major monitoring body and responsibility is in the State House of Assembly. There is nothing much the citizens can do, because you have to come through a body like NGOs and all that. But it's the State House of Assembly. So that's why I'm happy that now we have a situation whereby within the next few months, we have the State House of Assembly being independent, their money being sent to them, same thing as the judiciary. So that by the time we have a few, even if there are opposition parties in those House of Assemblies, they can talk. We can have something viable as opposition. The way the legislature is taking on the federal government.
That is what democracy is all
yes,
about.
The way the National Assembly is taking up the federal government, then the state assemblies can be taking up the state government, so that there can be openness, there can be transparency. So, but looking at it now, I don't think that they are going to do any major project with this. We should just appeal to them. People suffering, people that have not been paid salaries and pensions, they should try as much as possible to pay those people with this money, and we know that at least they've done something.
We've done something, but then some have said that even if all of this is done, it is just a respite. In short term, when you look at the deficits that we have in terms of infrastructure, which is also supposed to benefit a lot of persons, how do these governors begin to get creative? Because this is the final tranche, and the vice president, I remember when we were talking about the 30,000 naira minimum wage, he was saying that states have to begin to become creative when it comes to generating IGR.
They have to be. There are some states that are naturally richer than others. Lagos State, the Niger Delta areas are richer in terms of natural resources because of the oil. So they have resource control. They're entitled to some form of resource control. So there is some form of revenue generation coming in for them, unlike some states up north or some states in the... So it cannot be said that all of them have equal opportunity of revenue generation. However, they can still be creative by looking inward. What are those things that they have in their states that they can generate revenue from? They don't have to always depend on government for sharing or refund, whether it is their benefit, whether it is their entitlement.
When you look at the system that we're on, that's the federal system of government, where some issues are on the exclusive list and the states cannot really, when it comes to resource control, some states cannot really have access to that.
But some states have access to resource control. The oil producing areas, they have access to resource control. They are being given resource, some percentage 30%. Of resource control. And so they have more money. So they don't, in those states, they don't have any excuse, for not generating employment, for not doing enough projects. They have more money that the projects they are doing cannot justify. But they tell you that, oh, our terrain, because of the kind of terrain that they have, in the Niger Delta, we need more money to build a road that may ordinarily cost 100 naira in a dry land, will cost 1 billion in the Niger Delta. They come up with all kinds of excuses, but those are just, some people see it as just ways to, just find a way around the part of corruption we are talking about. And he mentioned that the citizens cannot do anything. Of course, there is a law the citizens can do. It is the right of the citizen to demand accountability.
You just mentioned something, the rights, but do they know their rights?
But we need to sensitize them. They need to know that is their right. But when election comes and votes are needed, don't they go to the citizens for votes? So the citizen can come together. You don't need to be a member of any NGO. So long as a member of a community, you can go to your local government councillor or the councillor of your community, the local government chairman, and demand accountability for what he promised you. What have you been doing? Healthcare, no road, no water. a lot of people cannot have access to water, to good water. So those are the areas that you demand accountability, and so much money is given to these state governors. So what do? They hide under security budget or security vote and say that you don't account for that. Because of the level of insecurity now, there's even more excuse for them to embezzle the money.
Really, it's a serious situation. So the 30,000 naira minimum wage now, those state governments that were saying that they can't pay that amount should be able to pay that now.
I don't think so. The money we're talking about is just like normal monthly tranches that go to the states, like federal allocation, like fact that it's just 615 billion. So by the time, and it depends on what the overbilling of every state as at the time. So some states are not going to get so much, but what we're just saying is they should try to do the best with what they have. And I don't like to give them excuses, because we have some state governors that they are not oil producing states. Like Enugu, we can see projects everywhere. He's not a perfect man too, but relatively, everybody is saying good things about the governor. Projects everywhere, humanitarian services everywhere. Kaduna we just saw a release of the IGRs of all those states. And you see, even states like Kano have been maybe 20-something or 36 billion in a year. And I wonder, what are they doing?
Also cut down on spending as well.
So, anyway.
Thank you, Jonathan Bath. Thank you, Shijibomi Ademi Bennett, for your time